YouTube Ozick going the GOAT House is back. After Thursday and Sunday's action in NFL Week 15, I'm here to recap it like we do every single Monday. Power rankings updated tomorrow. Those are updated every single Tuesday. And we got all of our predictions the rest of the week for this upcoming huge Week 16. We even got games on Saturday this week, so I'm excited for that. Also have a bunch of college football content on the channel predicting bowl games in the playoffs, so go ahead and check that out. More content on the Patreon, patreon.com/thegoathouse. Playoff predictions, score predictions, mock drafts, always adding more content to that, even in the offseason. So check it out. Link in the description for more info. Help us reach that 40K goal, trying to get there by the end of the season. Full sports content here at the GOAT House, NFL and college football, even in the offseason. Draft and free agency coverage, of course. Click that like button. Check us out on Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. Always talking football on there. There is a link in the description. First game, Thursday night game. We'll recap real quick. Honestly, I watched every single snap of this game. I really don't even know what to say about this game besides, the Ravens are just dominant and kind of what we expected. We expect most good teams to be dominant against the Jets, but, the Ravens bring it on another level. It's not just Lamar, too. They got multiple pieces, throughout that offense, even rotation guys, and the defense continuing to get better. Dominant performance. Jets still questionable about that Gase hire. Even Darnold kind of not happy with Gase, too. So we'll see what happens there. Did not like that hire at the time. Really don't like it now, so we'll see what happens there. But another good win for the Ravens, and they got a good break on top of it. Next game is the Patriots and the Bengals. Big win for the Patriots, but this game was kind of close for a bit. There was a time where it felt like the Bengals could win this game, and really the difference was the Patriots defense and Andy Dalton. Turned the ball over 4 times. There was some great plays by the Patriots defense. Mainly in the secondary, and that was kind of the difference. And, trying to figure out which one kind of did them in. It was kind of all of them, big-time plays, but the Stephon Gilmore pick six, which was a great play, great read, kind of was the dagger there. But it just felt like the Bengals had a shot in this game. Just looking at Patriots offense and the Bengals offense, there really wasn't much of a difference through most of this game besides, I guess, what it came down to, the turnovers, taking care of the ball for the Patriots, turning the ball over. Andy Dalton, obviously. Joe Mixon was playing pretty well. It looked like the Bengals were able to move the ball. It's just the turnovers, James White leading in receiving yards for the Patriots. I mean, he's been a factor. He's been a weapon, but it's not necessarily a good thing. Just need to see a little more offense, but they didn't really need it in this game. They took care of business. A big game against the Buffalo Bills this week. Next game, the Bucs and the Lions. Jameis Winston had another great game. The Bucs had another great game. Got a little scary. Let the Lions come back a little bit, but they took care of business in the end. Just came away firing. Even right away, Winston threw a pick. Seems to happen every single week, but then they really got going. Lions got to capitalize on that. They got to capitalize on that, but just big-time plays from Winston and those receivers. Godwin, who eventually got hurt, and that's unfortunate on top of the Mike Evans injury. We see the offensive production go down a little bit right when Godwin's out, but then they figure it out, and it kind of shows that Winston is pretty damn good because, he's making Brashard Perriman look good. That's a guy that struggled elsewhere, and it looks like any receiver that gets thrown in there, Winston's going to make him look good. But obviously, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are very good receivers, so it's not like they're maybe, average and Winston's making them look a lot better. They're very good receivers, but you got Perriman getting in there, and he's making plays for them. Scotty Miller making plays for them. So, Winston had a great game. On top of that, the offensive line injuries and the struggles they had here and there definitely could be worse, much worse, if you look elsewhere. But mainly no running game. Nobody's scared of the Buccaneers running game. Even though they have their moments, Ronald Jones has his good moments, and he has some upside. Nobody's really going to game plan for the run game. Everyone, when they're watching the film, they're like, all right, we got to watch out, for this in the run game. Watch out for this guy, It's not really what it is. They're playing against the pass. They're game planning for the pass, and they still can't stop them. And that kind of shows what this passing game for this team and what Winston has done and why it's impressive. So I expect actually at this point them to keep Winston around for a year or two contract in this offseason when he's a free agent. So defense is getting better too. Sean Murphy Bunting getting a big pick six. Loved him a lot out of Central Michigan. I thought that was a great pick. So the defense still needs improvement, but they are improving, and they're on their way because as young defense, they drafted pretty well over the years. They got a steal in the free agency with Shaq Barrett. So it's looking pretty good. Everything looks good for the Bucs heading forward. Need a run game. Need to retool that offensive line a little bit. Not completely rebuild it, obviously. but an impressive game from Jameis Winston. Yeah, I mean, he's just throwing all over everybody. Very impressive. And I said a few weeks ago, right, earlier in the season actually, that the thing I did like about Winston, it's kind of a reason why he's throwing picks, is because he kind of refuses to kind of give up on a play. He won't throw the ball away, whether it's out of bounds or in the dirt. And it's a bad thing sometimes when he throws the pick, but you gotta love the mentality. You gotta respect it. And it's been paying off for him recently. So Bucs, they're feeling it. They got a big time Saturday game against the Texans. More of a big game for the Texans, obviously. Too bad the Bucs couldn't finish these games early in the year, because they definitely would be a serious playoff contender right now. So it is unfortunate, but they're looking good for the future. The Bears and the Packers. Strange game, because Packers started off kind of right off the bat, moving the ball. It's kind of what we've been seeing. They get a big play or two, gets them in the midfield, and then they kind of get shut down. The Bears defense is pretty good. So that's kind of just back and forth, some punts. And then actually on a punt, Cordero Patterson makes a textbook play, forces a fumble. The Bears recover in Packers territory and actually throw a flag for interference, meaning that the refs thought Cordero Patterson hit the returner before the ball got there, but it was pretty darn clear that he did not, and that was a big game changer in this game. That was a huge game changer, and even if you got to be damn sure to throw that flag on that. It's one of those where you have to be damn sure that he hit him early. You have to be 100% certain to throw that flag. If it's kind of close, those are one of those plays you let go. It's a football play. So that was costly. That was crucial. Because the Bears could have that's it's an assumption, they could have put points on the board, and that could have changed the game. It doesn't change the fact that the Packers at that point of the game were able to move the ball. They really got things going on offense. They had some big time throws at that point of the game, and Aaron Jones couldn't really be stopped early. Once they got into the red zone or pushed it even further, inside the 10-yard line, he was looking really good. So that doesn't change. Even though they got the call wrong, it doesn't change the fact that the Packers were able to move the ball. Some mess ups on the Bears defense, which is still a good defense. But that kind of flipped again. I can't tell with these Packers the last few weeks. I cannot tell if they're holding a little bit back, and they might be, because they were able to move the ball early in this game against pretty good defense, and then all of a sudden, they're 21-6, 21-3. They're kind of holding back, it feels like, but why? So that's why I can't really tell if they're getting conservative, or if that's how the offense is. It's really tough to tell these last few weeks, and mainly this game. But they kind of let the Bears back in it. Trubisky, he was making some good throws on the run. I think that was one of the better throws I've ever seen from him. Him rolling out to the right, throwing across his body. Perfect throw to Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller's been great for them. Recently, I liked that pick. I didn't like what they traded away to go up and get that pick, but because I'm not a huge fan of trading up. But I did like Anthony Miller a lot in that draft class, so I did like the actual pick. And he's starting to pick it up. He's a playmaker, and Trubisky likes him now. Last year and this year, it seems like Trubisky missed him, on some throws more than anybody else, and he got Miller frustrated. So it's good to see them on the same page right now. But at the same time, Trubisky made some of those impressive throws, there's still those simple ones, and there's still those ones downfield for the most part that he needs to hit and he can't really hit. Looking at, and especially on crucial downs, looking at third down, and they went for it on fourth down a couple times, which I didn't agree with. Low percentage conversion rate, I guess, on the 4th and 7, 4th and 6. There was one of each. And the type of play and throw are both low percentages too. So and we've seen that from Nagy and the Bears, Trubisky, whoever. You can put the blame on multiple people there this year on those fourth downs, those crucial ones, and they can't make the play. It seems like some big time third downs, they couldn't make the play. And it'll kind of show up in terms of the statistics and the score, because the Bears had an insane amount of offensive production in terms of yards, but they can't put the ball in the end zone. Why? Because they're moving the ball downfield. They end up getting a big third or fourth down. They can't convert, so they're not kicking field goals, and which results in them not being able to punch the ball in the end zone. So that is a problem. Trubisky made some impressive throws. He's been much, much better the second half of the year than the first. But, it's still the main – there's multiple reasons, but it's still the main reason why the Bears are where they're at, eliminated from the playoffs right now. So I still think that is a huge need for them. But I guess some people still have some hope. But Bears had this game. They had a chance, even at the end, too, that you can't really rely on that. But that trickery play, the laterals, they had Allen Robinson who could have walked into the end zone. And that would have been something. They would have had to gone for 2 as well, but he easily would have scored if they pitched it. But I guess it really can't come down to that. But the Packers shouldn't let it come down to that. That's kind of my point there. You kept thinking, okay, the game's over. Packers got the ball back. All right, now the Bears got to start from inside their own 5. It's gonna be the game, and also the Bears get the ball back again. They're able to do this lateral play inside the Packers territory. It's just the Packers were just giving them too many opportunities, and I can't really tell if I'm being 100% honest if they're holding a little bit back, which I think they are holding a little bit back in situations like this. Or they maybe just can't push the ball sometimes. I mean, I think we've seen a mixture of both of those, so it's tough. But the Packers should have the NFC North wrapped up. Even if they lose to the Vikings on Monday night, all they have to do is beat the Lions, which you expect them to do that, but I guess you never know. But good bounce back season for the Packers because they're about to win the NFC North, and a big win here, which could have been a trap game for sure. Texans Titans, very weird game, very very weird game. Especially starting off, the Texans are moving the ball. Then he had a hell of an interception by Kenny Vaccaro. It's a great play. It wasn't the worst throw. It's just a great play. And the Titans move the ball, and they get to one of their rotation tight ends, Ferkser. And as soon as he catches the ball gets hit out and falls right in the hands of a Texan. And they don't return it for a touchdown, but you might as well call it that. So that was like a fluky play, and that was a game changer. A fluky play, that was a game changer. I think if that play, it's football, but I'm saying if that fluky play doesn't happen, which it mostly doesn't, I think the Titans win this game. The Texans did have their turnovers in the red zone, but I think they're mainly just really good plays by the Titans defense, which they've been doing all year. And Tannehill he made some really good throws early, but he also missed a lot of throws that he would want back. A.J. Brown was fantastic. Derrick Henry looked like playing hurt a little bit. Things weren't really going the Titans' way, except for maybe the 2 turnovers they created on defense, which they've been doing. Both teams still battling for the AFC South. The Texans they definitely have the advantage right now in terms of for the AFC South title. The Saints-Titans game this week doesn't mean a whole bunch. That kind of just means something for the wild card. The Titans versus Steelers, we'll say, battle. What it's really on is the Texans taking care of business against the Buccaneers, which is actually a tough game on Saturday, which should be a good game though. And taking care of business there, then they should have the division locked up. But if they don't, it'll come down to that Week 17 matchup between these two teams. I picked the Titans in this game, and I don't really regret the pick. It's one of those games where I would pick the Titans again in this home game situation. Like I said, the fluky play changed some things. They missed Adoree Jackson big time. They missed him big time. The corner play was pretty rough. Tremaine Brock, getting a big load, and that was pretty rough. That was pretty rough for him. So they need Adoree Jackson back now. They really need him back for the next meeting between these two teams if it means something. If they get Adoree Jackson back, they definitely are a much better team. And they can't let those fluky plays happen. Those type of plays have been going the Titans' ways this year. So finally caught up with them. They finally lost a game. They were streaking. The Texans, that is a very important win. They made the plays they needed to make. Will Fuller, better than people think. His presence changes the game. He's one of those guys, but he makes the big plays too. And he's a threat downfield, but his presence stretches the field, changes the game. He is a very, very underrated player in this league. He just needs to stay healthy. Because he makes everyone around him better. So, impressive win for the Texans. That was a big-time win. On to the next game, we got the Broncos and the Chiefs. Snow Bowl game. A lot of people were very confident in LaShawn McCoy having a big game, maybe for their fantasy. And that was a letdown. The snow game. McCoy in the snow game thought it was a lock. I know he is a little older. But they didn't really give him too much opportunity. I guess they didn't really need to, but they didn't give him too much opportunity. Kind of the only thing holding the Chiefs back right now is their running game. They need Damian Williams back. Even though he hasn't had the best year, they need him back. He's still their best running back, in my opinion, and can do the most for them. But another good game from the Chiefs. They did enough on offense, especially in the snow. Mahomes threw the ball pretty darn well, especially in the snow, which you kind of expect them still to play that well. It's nothing new. Home in the snow, it's nothing crazy, Defense, I've been saying they're improving, and you see it again. They are improving. They really shut down the Broncos offense. They shut down Locke, who's been on fire. But at the same time, I don't really have any takeaways. I'm not gonna force myself to have any takeaways for the Broncos. I like this team for the future. Drew Lock's been playing good. He played bad in this game. It was in the snow, away against a good team, an improving defense. A defense that's kind of hard to game plan against too, because you don't know. It seems like they're different every week. Spagnuolo's done a very good job. So I'm not going to have any takeaways in the Broncos here. There's really no reason to from this type of game. But the Chiefs, you can have takeaways it's kind of the same takeaways. They're improving. They're getting healthier. They need a run game. They need to stay healthy. defense has been improving. The pressure's been improving. Spagnuolo has been a heck of a defensive coach lately, the way he's calling games. So Chiefs continue to roll. Sunday night against the Bears should be an interesting one. That's kind of another one of those trap-type games. Dolphins and the Giants. I picked the Dolphins to win this game, and by the finishing score, it looks like a very stupid pick there. I knew it was kind of bold, but if you watch this game, if you know within the game, I don't regret the pick. Another one of those, I don't regret the pick. And my reasoning, if you remember, my reasoning was I thought Eli Manning would turn the ball over multiple times, and that's exactly what he did. He turned the ball over 3 times. I thought that would help the Dolphins enough, and you have to credit the Giants' defense off those turnovers and, not letting the Dolphins score, obviously, more than 20 points. A defense that struggled this year, but recently have been picking it up, and we thought maybe those other teams, the opposing teams, have been struggling on offense, but it looks like the Giants' defense really picking it up. I love the cornerback trio for the future. The outside corners, DeAndre Baker and Sam Beal, and then Julian Love, who was a steal in the draft. I like him in the slot. He seemed to be all over the place in this game. Kind of got to continue building it up, get a pass rusher, an edge rusher for them, possibly a safety as well for the future to pair with Peppers, but, defense pretty darn impressive in this game. Love the way the corners play. Obviously, they've had their inconsistencies, the game where they're going to be off, but they're all very, very young. They're basically all rookies. Sam Beal didn't play at all last year out of the supplement draft. I really consider all 3 of them rookies. So very impressive Giants defensive performance. But it won't show by the score, but actually it was actually it felt like a close game to me because the deciding factor was that safety the Giants got. So again, the credit goes to the defense on that play, but the Dolphins running back Patrick Laird, that's the one and only thing you cannot do when you're running out of your own end zone. You kind of just got to, even if the hole's not there, you kind of just got to get outfield. He bounced out not once, but twice. Bounced out backwards and outside in the back of the end zone. It had safety written all over it, and it was a safety. With, all the tank for Tua, the tank for a quarterback, and the, trading your best offensive lineman on an already poor offensive line and having those big needs, it's pretty crazy that I think their biggest need actually is running back. It should go without saying, honestly, with Laird playing running back, and that was brutal. I think if they don't allow that, safety, I think this, that you could say most likely the Giants win the game, but it's a whole different ball game, in my opinion. That Golden Tate touchdown was pretty wild, hell of a catch there. The Dolphins were about to make a play on that ball. That was a heck of a play. Saquon Barkley played a pretty darn good game. Some nifty moves out there. Love to see it. But good that Eli gets the win, but kind of a rough game for him, honestly. Did have some big throws here and there. Next game, Eagles and the Redskins, a wild one. Back and forth. We had a tie here at that point, and then kind of close it out at the end. Obviously closer in the score shows because the Eagles scored in the last play of the game when they just scored to take the lead on offense with 26 seconds. Kind of to sum up this one, Carson Wentz, a better game than we have been seeing, but it's still that you almost kind of compare to Jameis Winston. He's obviously not in terms of the turnovers, obviously, but in terms of, crazy big play where the guy looks all pro at one point, but then a play that makes you scratch your head and makes you, think about, the talent level. The same thing, but instead of interceptions on Jameis Winston, you got kind of just missed simple throws and holding onto the ball in the pocket too long, fumbling the ball, which he was fortunate to not lose the ball more, but he made clutch, crazy plays that eventually won the game. Some tight window throws, very impressive. So a better game than he has been playing, but there's still those moments where you want back, and there's still those moments that make you kind of question what's going to happen if they do get into playoffs, when they play the Cowboys, and if they do get into the playoffs here. Maybe he's used to a little longer protection of the offensive line. They've had their injuries. It's been the same story every week, but they get the job done. Another clutch win, back-to-back clutch wins. That could really get the momentum and change the season. Miles Sanders played a really good game. We saw Boston Scott pretty much had to take the role last week against the Giants, and he was a huge, huge reason. People may say maybe Ertz was the biggest reason they came back against the Giants, but I'd say Boston Scott, if I had to sing, it's not about one player, but if I had to, the role he took and the plays he was making. And now this week, they put Sanders in those same type of plays, which credit to Peterson for, recognizing that. He kind of gave Sanders those type of plays because he is the better running back at the end of the day. He's better than Boston Scott. So get him those plays, get him in space. That's what they did here, and he was a big-time player in this game. The Redskins, Adrian Peterson had a pretty good game, and the fact that they were kind of in the game or tied or winning at some point, made me wish that they could have ran the ball to Peterson a little more because he was really feeling it in this game. I like the option from Haskins. I wish they would do more of that. You can throw the ball out of that. It's that they did that a lot at Ohio State. Kind of just, it's not really a rollout. It's just to get the ball, and it's almost like an option look. You just go horizontal across the field straight out and kind of throw on the run. That's where Haskins was best. That's what made me like Haskins on Ohio State, and I want to see more of that. You can get really creative and really throw teams off with that. So I want to see more of that. And the Redskins continue to have these games where, if they do things right, I still think play calling. What I'm getting down to is I think play calling is still a big time issue. So I think we could definitely see, which is kind of expected to see a new staff in here. Get an offensive line for Haskins. Get another receiver. They can make this thing work here. They can make this thing work. It's about being unpredictable and getting creative these days in the NFL and offense. In an offensive league, even though defenses can definitely still win the game, big games, that's what it's about. But good clutch win for the Eagles. Seahawks Panthers. Another one of those Seahawks games where it's like, they're winning most of this game, but why are they letting this team stick in the game? You got a bunch of turnovers. Like, how are you letting this team stick in the game? It's kind of one of those games. You knew the Seahawks were going to win pretty much the whole way, but I guess things got kind of interesting. And they keep relying on those clutch turnovers, and they look very lucky. But I say this about teams like year after year. There's always those teams like if you consistently do it, it's really not too much luck anymore. But they look to be very fortunate in pretty much every game, coming up clutch with those turnovers that kind of hold the other team from coming back. Because you can go through a lot of games. If that doesn't happen, then things get even more interesting than they always let them get. So Chris Carson had a big game. They can make the plays. Russell Wilson can make the throws. It's just weird that teams kind of get back in the game and they kind of rely on those big plays. It's just a little weird. But at the same time, not the most comfortable win, but I felt pretty comfortable with the Seahawks, before and throughout this game. KJ Wright had a big game for Seattle there. Felt like Kuechly was the only guy that was everywhere for the Panthers. Pretty obvious. Not surprising, really. But I guess the Panthers got a quarterback situation. Cam Newton should be the starter next year, hoping that he gets fully healthy. Or they can go that a different route. There's rumors that they want to go that new school. That maybe that college style route. So maybe they can even draft one. So we'll see. It's good that the Seahawks, even though they made things a little interesting, it's good that they go out and put up 30 points. After a week of kind of getting shut up by the Rams, a little surprising. So it's good that they went and did that. Got a win. Jaguars Raiders. Said I was never picking the Jags again. Based on their little effort and the way they've been playing recently, and they go out and win this game. Early on, it looked like the Raiders were going to take care of business, pushing the ball up somewhat easily, which isn't surprising. It's the way the Jags defense has been playing, and all of a sudden it just kind of gets shut down. Just gets shut down. And the big problem is just, the lack of receivers. It's pretty much Waller out there by himself. Antonio Brown really screwed him, but they need more help out there. They need more help. Derek Carr was playing like a top 10 quarterback early in the year, really struggling now. Throwing the ball away too much. Seen it last week too. Just not enough going. Defense played, besides the last drive, they played a pretty solid game. The offense has got to go out and win this game. So even though the defense gave up that score at the end, you can't put it on them. They do need linebacker play is just awful. It's just awful. So they need help there. That's obvious. Clutch for Minshew. But really a boring game besides maybe that last game-winning drive of the Jags. Not too much excitement, not too much going there. Just been a disappointing for both these teams. Browns and Cardinals, very disappointed for the Browns, too. Thought they could win this game. The Cardinals, 38 points. Super impressive. They were able to do that. Kenyon Drake had a monster game. This guy, I know he's going from the Dolphins to the Cardinals, a different playbook, more opportunities in the Cardinals, maybe a little better weapons around him, maybe a lot on the Cardinals. But at the same time, the guy looks faster, he looks quicker, he looks more elusive, he looks like a different guy, and he had a dominant game. It's crazy that Kenyon Drake is the Cardinals' best running back. That trade is looking pretty good. They might be able to sign him up for the future. So that's looking really good. He had a big-time game. And the Browns are a disaster. I'm kind of just sick of it at this point. The whole Odell thing, would never have traded from the first place because that's just the situation you're going to get. I don't know if they'll be able, I don't know who wants them. Somebody will trade for them, but you're not going to get anyone near what you traded back. So I don't know. And then you got talk that they're going to give Kitchens a chance, but then going into the game, and then in the game, you got Jarvis Landry kind of getting Kitchens' face. It's a mess. It's kind of old. I'm really sick of it. Honestly, at this point, the team should be better. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good one for the Cardinals. The Oklahoma quarterback battle, Kyler Murray gets the W. It's big time for them, even though it doesn't mean a whole bunch, but it's just a big win. Vikings and Chargers, holy turnovers. The Vikings get 7 turnovers in this game. It's a wild game. It was interesting early. Very interesting early. I hated the Vikings offensive play calling early. They were it felt like they were playing for field goals. That's kind of what it felt like. They run the ball on first, run the ball on second, which sets up an obvious throwing situation on third, which means you can't run play action, which means you can't roll out because the edge rushers will be out there. And what is Kirk Cousins' game? It's play action and rolling out. And when you can't do that, you're limiting his game. So that's why I saw early. I can't complain too much because they got a good win. But I think what's the only one and only thing holding them back on offense is play calling, which they have at times during the year. It looks great. Like the first drive of the game, they script it up. It looks great, but sometimes they play for third down. They play for the obvious, predictable play calls there. So that's the only concern I have about the Vikings offense. The Vikings defense, cornerback is a situation that it's an issue. And we saw that early, third and longs. Phillip Rivers kind of just chucking the ball up and Mike Williams coming down with it. So that was kind of a problem. But, man, I got to give a lot of credit to Mike Zimmer in this game. I wasn't happy about the offensive coaching of Mike Zimmer. Called a hell of a defensive game, which really isn't a surprise because it's Mike Zimmer, but this was on another level. If you didn't watch this game, the Vikings had a lot of times during this game. They had 4 defensive ends on the D-line. They had Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffin as the defensive ends on the edge. And then they had Stephen Weatherly and Odenigbo as defensive tackles, but those are 2 defensive ends. Why did they do that? Because they've been getting a lot of pressure from the edge. They have not been getting a lot from the inside, so they want to put the D ends in there. But that does hurt big time if a team's going to go out and run the ball. But Mike Zimmer was able to predict what type of plays the Chargers were running at the right times. He would put the defensive tackles back in running situations. I mean, the guy looked like just a complete genius in this game. And in the turnovers, a lot of the turnover credit goes to him because he had the right personnel in there at the right time. Again, a defense that's going south, a defense that's been giving up some yards, some points this year, more than we're used to. But I've been saying all year that there's been 2 elite players in this defense kind of really holding it together. Danielle Hunter, Eric Kendricks, and those guys had elite performances again. They both basically had 2 forced fumbles. Kendricks will only be credited for 1 because on the Phillip Rivers fumble forced by Danielle Hunter, Eckler picked it back up, and then Kendricks forced that fumble. That really won't go down in the book, but those guys had ridiculous games. Danielle Hunter was just an animal out there, and the Chargers just could not help themselves. And it goes back to what I've been saying: get Eckler the ball more, get him the ball more. They did give him some. He wasn't able to do a whole bunch, but Melvin Gordon fumbling the ball too easily, too often. Eckler just gets more explosive plays. It's just the same thing every single week. The Chargers have the talent to do this and just can't. Phillip Rivers making too many mistakes. Anytime he feels any pressure, just chucking the ball up for grabs. So it was a rough game. Like every time at one point the Chargers had the ball, everything was going wrong. Mistakes were being made, and it was just it was brutal. 7 turnovers is unbelievable. And it's they're again great defensive calls by the Vikings, great defensive plays, but it's kind of just the Chargers being the Chargers at this point, and it was rough. The Vikings really couldn't get Dalvin Cook going, so credit the Chargers stopping him. Then he got hurt. It feels like Dalvin Cook's been playing hurt since the Broncos game. He went down late holding his shoulder in the Broncos game. Ever since then, he has not been right. He honestly shouldn't be playing, but Alexander Mattison out this week. Dalvin Cook pretty much had to play. He goes down, and Mike Boone, undrafted a couple years ago out of Cincinnati, actually he looked really good. He had a really good game, so it's good that he steps up. Didn't get to see too much of Thielen. Rudolph's been pretty darn good for the Vikings recently, so that was key for them. Offensive line, they didn't allow a sack against Melvin Ingram, who had a fantastic interception reading that slip screen. Finally, somebody picked up on the Vikings' 1,000 slip screens they run a game. Joey Bosa was pretty much locked down, but a lot of double teams, and I think the Vikings were actually getting away with some holds a lot of this game against Joey Bosa. They started to call him at the end when the game was out of reach, but they were kind of mauling Joey Bosa sometimes. I was surprised the low amount of calls. Really, there wasn't that many calls on either side, but yeah, they locked down that pass rush, so I guess that was impressive. The turnovers were the difference because it was a good game. It was a good game until, I guess, that fumble right before the half. So, interesting game. Vikings get better playoff chances now, and their NFC North title hopes are still alive but very thin. They got to go beat the Packers on Monday night. The Rams and the Cowboys, I mean, this is just football. Football is weird sometimes. You got the Rams absolutely heating up. They changed their blocking scheme. They're looking good. The line's looking better. The running game's looking better. Jared Goff's looking better. The play calls are looking better. The play designs are looking better. The defense is looking better. The Cowboys, everything's looking worse. Dak's looking worse. There's no running game. Receivers are hurt. They're dropping the ball. The defense cannot tackle. Everything's going wrong, and then we'll just flip it. We'll just completely flip it here in Week 15, and the Cowboys with a dominant performance, even more dominant, really, than the score shows at the end. Dak, the stats won't show it, but he made the big throws. He made the clutch throws, but he didn't have a whole bunch of stats. I mean, their leading receiver was Tavon Austin with that one catch, which was a great play by Dak, by the way, escaping sacks, going right, and rolling back to the left, throwing it kind of across his body. It was a great play, even though he was wide open. But the name of the game here was the running game. The Rams had 20 or so yards rushing, which we're talking about the different blocking scheme and Gurley getting going. Nothing get going. And then the Cowboys with Tony Pollard and Zeke running absolutely wild on these guys. Absolutely wild. When you think the Rams defense is getting better and you think with the guys up front and the linebackers playing a lot better, they're not giving up this many rushing yards. And they did. It was an excellent game plan from the Cowboys. Well-coached game. I felt like more tempo, more energy on the offense. Maybe that's just me. It just felt like there was more of an urgency to move the ball, maybe because they're pissed off. But you just got to play like that every single week. It's just a surprising game. You got to, stopping the run here was big for the Cowboys. We've seen it against the Bears where they can't tackle downfield. The difference is, I guess, when the ball gets downfield, like even a yard past the line of scrimmage, I should say. Anything past the line of scrimmage, they just all of a sudden they can't tackle. But in this game, that's where it starts with the Cowboys. It starts up front. I thought Antoine Woods played an excellent game, underrated defensive lineman for them. When you guys like that, show up and stop the run, that's the difference. That's kind of where it was, and the offense executed, like I said. So very impressive game from the Cowboys. Rams not so much. They had actually a shot to get in the playoffs here. And they still do, but they had a decent shot before. Now it's a lot tougher, but very impressive game for the Cowboys, how you just bounce back like that. And, it's a tough one for the Rams. I guess the difference is, why maybe Todd Gurley wasn't able to get downfield or into that space where you can avoid tackles against the Cowboys. Maybe it's speed. I think speed's a factor. You look at the Bears, they're so fast on the outside with Tariq Cohen and their weapons, and even Trubisky, and then it's just a lot of up the middle for the Rams and not enough speed. So I guess, thinking now, it's a pretty good matchup for the Cowboys because it's not a team that is going to get, quickness out of the backfield outside, which they very well could. I said it last week, actually. Darrell Henderson should be, a factor for the Rams. He should be playing more. That's the kind of guy that should be taking over this type of game. But yeah, hell of a game for the Cowboys, a surprising one. Maybe they can get back on track. Now, the Cowboys have been saying it for years. It's not just a this year thing. It's kind of like spurts. It's kind of like streaks. Winning streak, losing streak, winning streak. It's kind of the thing. So maybe, they start going now. And they're going to have home field. If they get going, they beat the Eagles, they're going to have home field in the playoffs, and anything can happen. I think the NFC has a lot of good teams, but I think it's wide open. There's some concerns with every NFC team that's going to be in the playoffs. We'll see. The Falcons and Niners, another wild game. Both these teams, I guess you don't know what you're going to get every week. Like, it's confusing how we thought we knew what we were going to get from the Niners every week, but to show up like this, I know they have the injuries. People thought injuries weren't really a concern, and they're definitely a concern, but they've been winning with injuries all year. It's a game you still should be able to win, and the injuries are mainly on the defensive side when the offense can't score enough points against a defense that's been giving up a lot of points and have not been able to get pressure. So it's a confusing game, and sometimes the Falcons look great, and sometimes they look like the worst team in football. It's confusing. I think the Niners got 2 sacks. 2 sacks is pretty solid. Some teams go games without getting a sack or maybe one. But at the end of the day, I don't think the pass rush was solid in this game. It's a game where the pass rush should win the game alone. The Niners pass rush should win this game. I know there was no D4. They didn't have them against the Packers either. And the pass rush to me, even though the offense was able to move the ball in that game, the pass rush to me won that game against the Packers. That's at the difference. But just against this offensive line, against Matt Ryan, who's been struggling under pressure this year, you got to do a better job. You got to get more. I feel like I said a few weeks ago, I feel like you can kind of get these DNs and these players on some fakes on the Niners defense, some play action, and I think you kind of can fool them, even though it's a very good defense. I just expect a little more pressure. I expected more of a factor, more sacks possibly. Matt Ryan, I'd say this is Matt Ryan's best game this year, and you'll disagree with me if you look off the stats, but I think this was his best game. Even though they didn't score a lot of points, 29 seems like a lot, but if you watch the game, you know that it was more of a defensive game than that. But Matt Ryan was great inside the pocket. He made the clutch throws. He didn't take any, stupid sacks. He didn't turn the ball over early like he does. I think he played a very good game. Same thing with Julio. I think this was Julio's best game, even if the stats don't show it. Impressive game for the Falcons. The Niners, just couldn't get anything going on offense. The fumbles was a problem, too. You have one from Breed, two from Breed. I think he lost one. And Mostert, kind of flashback we saw in the Steelers game. So I guess this is something that can kind of sneak up on them and kind of really at the end cost them the game. The defense did let them push downfield. Big Julio play, got a tackle on that play. And then the refs got the calls right at the end. It's kind of a shame they have to review in reverse. But those were tough calls to make on the field. Those were tough ones to call because Hooper's, it definitely hit the ground. I didn't think they were going to reverse that because ball's been hitting the ground all year and they've been keeping that or even changing them to catches. And I've been complaining that everything's a catch these days. So I'm actually surprised, but it was the right call. And then again, they reversed it again. Julio did score, did cross the plane. So I think two correct calls. It's kind of a shame that the Falcons thought they won. They took it away from him. And the Niners thought they won stopping Julio and then they took it away from him. But tough job. It was a tough task for the refs there in that game. But yeah, kind of surprising that the Niners let that happen. I figured they could maybe drop the Rams game or maybe or drop the Seahawks game because of the injuries. Did not expect this one, but unfortunate. And the Sunday night game kind of went, for me, kind of as expected. Nothing surprising here. People kind of, getting to watch these teams on a national level, kind of having takeaways like it's something new. To me, it's not. We all knew the Bills. We all knew both these defenses were very, very good. And kind of the takeaway for most people, are saying, look, they're super impressed with the Bills defense. Like they're super impressed, but that really shouldn't be the talk right now, honestly. Like it's been good. It's been really good. Bills fans should be able to side with me on this. Like they should play. Holding any team, especially away with playoff implications on Sunday night, holding any team to 10 points, it's always impressive. You got to be impressed by that. But this is what they should do. You expect them to do this. I expect them to do this. So those people kind of like, oh, wow, the Bills defense is good. Like, really? Like, come on. Should have known this already. Tre'Davious White had a monster game. Jordan Poyer seemed like he was everywhere as well. Tremaine Edmonds was the definition of everywhere for the Bills defense. Excellent game for them. TJ Watt for the Steelers was fantastic once again. Cam Hayward. The defense has showed up. It's nothing surprising. The defense has showed up. The offense couldn't. This is kind of what I feared for the Steelers offense. It's kind of why I've been doubting them. It could very well be one of the weaker offenses in all of football, and it could be a playoff team here. Hodges isn't really the answer. People started to talk him up this week. Like he's clutch, and he's like, it was ridiculous. Like people saying he's better than Josh Allen. Josh Allen didn't play a great game, but that's just absolutely mind-blowing. He's just not going to be able to compete against this defense. And Connor played a good game. You got guys like that. James Washington make plays. He's just not enough. It's just not enough. There's no star power, even though there's some guys close, like guys like James Conner. But when you have a quarterback like that, it's just not enough, especially against a defense like this. The Bills, I want their offense to be better. Josh Allen didn't play a great game. It was a tough game, though, for him. So you can't really blame him too much, but it was a tough game. Singletary ran the ball pretty well. Sometimes I think he hesitates before hitting the hole. That's kind of getting to me because once he's past the hole, he's dangerous. So if he just kind of puts it together, oh, man, it'd be scary. So we could see if he does that. It's a big time win for the Bills. Just like I said, Sunday night away, playoff implicated game. A lot of people doubting the Bills. They were underdogs. I don't really know why, but it's a big win. It's a big win, and you need more from offense, though. I'm still a little concerned about their offense, even though it's better than early in the year. Still need more from them. And it's kind of, it's the same thing as last week. Even though they lost last week, it's kind of like there's good news and there's bad news. Like last week, defense played lights out. They played as best as they could possibly play. They pretty much stopped Lamar Jackson. They definitely stopped Mark Ingram. There wasn't really any threats downfield besides one Hayden Hurst play. They played that good, but they still lost the game because they couldn't get enough offense. So that was good news and bad news there. You did good on defense, and the same thing kind of happened here, but they won the game. So there's good news and bad news here. I guess, the good is that at the end of the day, it's more good because the defense played lights out. They won the game. It was a big game. Their offense didn't even play that good, and they still won the game. So, but the concern is, can they get the offense on the right track there? It's really on Josh Allen too. It's really on him. It was a tough game. Steelers defense has been elite for the most part this year. So yeah, the game kind of went to me kind of what I expected. Maybe a little more defense, maybe a tiny bit. I thought 10 points for the Steelers. Pretty darn good performance for the Bills. Tre'Davious White was everywhere for them too. Got his hands on the ball twice there. Very impressive. So that's going to do it for the recap. Back every single week with this. We got power rankings early on Tuesdays. Predictions with the Goat House fellas on Tuesday nights. And then my score predictions on Wednesday. Junior score predictions on Wednesday on the Patreon. All kinds of extra videos always being added. We got predictions for all bowl games, playoff games for college football. Check that out. Plenty more content to come. We're almost at the playoffs here. Cannot wait. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe. That's going to do it for this one. Goodbye.